Another tool that hides under generators is the MOPS sweep spline. To demonstrate, I just set up this one here. It's a grid of instances with a spherical falloff, and then I appended the MOPS curl modifier here, set it to trail mode in lines, checked delete instances, and scaled back the frequency of our curl noise a bit to yield this result here. Sometimes that's already enough, so sometimes with Mantra, for example, or Redshift, you could render those splines as hairs and be done. However, in some cases, you want to turn these splines into geometry. And while there are several basic tools in Houdini to do that, we created another one with a bit more high-level functionality called the MOPS sweep spline, which has two inputs, one for the cross-section and one for a backbone. So the cross-section is the cross-section of the geometry that we want to create. So in our case, let's just use a circle for that. Let's just quickly highlight this, zoom in a bit, and set this circle to be a polygon. And let's have it have three sides, like so, a triangle. Let's wire this in the cross-section, and the backbone is the actual shape, the actual trails, the actual lines that we want to turn into geometry. Let's wire this in here and highlight the sweep spline. And after a short while, you can see this. Let's zoom in a bit. Sweep spline just turned our trails into geometry using this geometry here as a cross-section. So let's have a look at the settings. So first we can choose if we want caps or not. They are not visible now because we scaled down the ends, but that will provide capped ends if you see them. In the backbone settings, we can choose if we want to output a backbone. That means these splines coming in here. We can display it only, and we can also decide if we want to resample the backbone with your standard curve resample settings, like this. And I don't want to do that for now, so let's uncheck it. The main controls come down here, and they start with the start and end condition. So these let you animate the point from which your spline starts and the point at which it ends. So now when we zoom in, we should be able to see those caps here. Okay, let's set that to 0 and 1 again. Start at 0, end at 1. And now we can set up, on the one hand, the twist, and on the other hand, the scale. Let's maybe do the scale first. So the scale drives how the cross-section is scaled while moved along the spline here. The maximum scale is like the maximum overall scale that our cross-section can have. So this is a way of scaling up your geometry like this. And the minimum scale is the scale our geometry will have, in our case, at the ends. That is where we set these points to be 0. So that's the minimum scale here. So we can dial that up or down. Next, we can use this curve here to drive the behavior of our scale. So where the spline is thick and where it's getting scaled thinner, like this, which allows you to fine-tune the appearance of your geometry here. Let's reset that and have a look at the twist controls, which work in a similar manner. So you can already see those small splines, they are twisting, and the big ones are too. It just doesn't appear as strongly because they are longer. So here you can set up your minimum and maximum rotation. So how many times this geometry is being twisted along the spline. And in the same manner as with the scale, you can dial in how it's twisting along each spline using this ramp here. Finally, let's zoom out a bit. What you can do is extend the spline. So if for some reason you need the splines to be a bit longer than you created them, you can just check this option here, and we now can make those splines longer at the endpoints, and they are just extended tangentially. I'm not sure if you'd want that for your design, however, for animation curves or something like that, this is a really useful feature. Finally, if for some reason on this spline we have an orient attribute or a scale attribute, we can select to keep those and write those on the resulting points of our geometry. So that is the sweep spline.